It is 6:04, and I'm going to call to order the September 30th meeting of the Ann Arbor Independent Community Police Oversight Commission. I thank you all for coming. We're going to first have our roll call. Ms. Cummings, please.
Chair Carter.
Here.
Vice Chair Offman.
Here.
Commissioner Milgram.
Here.
Commissioner Liu.
Present.
Commissioner Mainley.
Here.
Commissioner Cooper.
Present.
Commissioner Haynes. Commissioner Green. Commissioner Pipkins. Councilmember Harrison. Councilmember Iyer. We have a quorum.
Thank you. We do expect other commissioners to be present. I'm going to ask the commissioners to please look at the agenda. You can see that we have a special item early on the agenda and also the minutes. And then I'm going to ask for approval of both before we move any further. Let's do that early on. Take just a minute. So I'm going to call, can I have a motion to approve this evening's agenda, please?
So move.
A second?
Second.
Okay, Cooper and Hoffman, thanks.
Right, thank you. Any comments or questions about the agenda? All in favor of approving the agenda?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. With regard to the minutes from our last meeting, can I have a motion to approve?
I move that we approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Again, I want to welcome everyone who has come out this evening. Many of us, and I want to welcome everyone. I see we have the chair and I think vice chair of the Human Rights Commission are with us. We thank you for coming out. Within the last few weeks, we have seen twice an article published in the Ann Arbor News that dealt with the driving equality ordinance and what happened after the driving equality ordinance was passed. And we believe this to be a very important matter. According to the Ann Arbor News, following the implementation of the driving equality ordinance, which you may know, prohibited police traffic stops for minor violations. The idea was that sometimes a minor violation or a claim that there was a minor violation can lead to an interaction that ultimately takes a wrong turn. I think that it was appropriate for ICPOC to say, let's take a few minutes, as long as we have, to look at the issue. And we've invited, and I know Councilperson Harrison will be here. She sponsored the driving equality ordinance initially, and I think she's prepared to say a few words to us. And we've also invited Ann Arbor Police Chief Andre Anderson to speak to us this evening. You know, I think because of the history in this country of black folks being stopped on the streets, this goes back a century at least. I know personally, my father was stopped out in front of our house bringing in the hose after he had watered the lawn. They made him go inside and prove that he lived there. My brother was stopped on the way home from Wayne State University carrying his briefcase. My son was stopped leaving a basketball game at Pioneer High School. So these are important issues, and if indeed black motorists are being stopped more often than should be, it's something we think is fitting for ICPOC to look into. And so we have invited, and I'm assuming some of you came out because of the issue, and we will have time for public comment if anyone wishes to comment after our presentation. So I'm going to ask Councilperson Cynthia Harrison, who is one of our liaisons to ICPOC, to begin our discussion this evening about the driving equality ordinance and what your understanding as to what's going on after it was implemented. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. So, my part today is a discussion, and so I'll start with talking about why I felt it was important to bring an ordinance to the city of Ann Arbor, ordinance being a local law. While I was campaigning during the year of 2022, took my seat in November 2022, I would speak with residents and individuals that lived here in the city of Ann Arbor, and some who used to live here in the city of Ann Arbor, and also those who travel to Ann Arbor, through Ann Arbor, work in Ann Arbor, play in Ann Arbor, their children go to school in Ann Arbor, people that look like me. And, I would talk to them about their experience while being here in Ann Arbor. And just let me back up a little bit. I should let y'all know that I'm a criminal legal reform advocate and also a police reform advocate, so that's the platform that I ran on. And so it was really important to me to hear what other people's experience was, other individuals that look like me. And, the feedback I got a feedback that was not so positive about individuals' experience here over the years while operating a vehicle in the city of Ann Arbor. So that prompted me to look into what other jurisdictions and municipalities around the country were doing and how they were handling similar circumstances within their jurisdictions, and did come across the council member Isaiah Thomas in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and he had created the driving equality ordinance, I believe the first one in the country. And so I basically modeled ours after theirs. However, ours is different. I worked also with the Vera Institute of Justice, the ACLU, and and of course our city staff, our city attorney's office, to craft the driving equality ordinance here for the city of Ann Arbor. There was, some individuals thought I should do it by policy. I personally thought I should do it by a local law, because we know that administrations change and leadership changes, and so I thought it would be most effective to do a local law or do this by ordinance, so that, when administrations change within our Ann Arbor Police Department, the local law would still live on beyond my time here, beyond, the current, the administration who was in leadership at the time, and then after that. So in doing so, we really got the community involved. We, in terms of, I guess I did, in terms of speaking with community members, we did, because it was by ordinance, we did have 2 public hearings, and during those public hearings, There were individuals that, from the community that came here in front of council to share their lived experience. And, I thought that was, first of all, when folks are coming, here to speak to city council members, I know from experience that it can be, it can be a nerve-wracking thing to be vulnerable and speak, before city council about things that have impacted you personally. So, commending those that did come out and share their story. So I'm sorry, I'm just kind of like going through the history and of why I thought this was important. I myself have, and my loved ones have had not so positive experiences with, in particular, the Ann Arbor Police Department. This is where I've lived. I was born and raised here. So that's a fact that, I have loved ones that have been negatively impacted by over-policing here in the city of Ann Arbor. And so, as a mother of black men, black young men, black men, I can tell you that when your child calls you on the phone because there's a police officer behind them or they have been stopped by police, what I can tell you personally is that experience is for me, that experience was for me, every time it happened, a heart-wrenching moment, because, I think y'all know why. But in case you don't, I'll share that historically, black individuals in the black community has been very negatively impacted by traffic stops. Many have been killed at traffic stops as a result of a traffic stop. If they haven't been killed, they've been beaten. It's something that, as I speak with other mothers here in the city of Ann Arbor and around the country, it is something that is it's not fun, in short. And what I could say about a child in your household getting their driver's license is really it is a rite of passage. When a child in your home gets their driver's license, it can, they have all of a sudden this newfound independence. It's I say bittersweet for the black community because the sweet part of it is perhaps mom and dad don't have to pick up from school. Perhaps they don't have to do the driving to, getting the child from school to sports or tutoring or practice or whatever it is, whatever extracurricular activities that child is participating in. And so if the family is fortunate enough to provide a vehicle, if they're able to provide a vehicle for their child to get around. Sometimes that child has a younger child that they can pick up from school, and it really can save the mother or father or grandmother or whoever is raising those children some time. What I can tell you is the bitter part of that in the black community is that because it's also a scary time in the black community. At dinner tables of black families around the country, we have discussions, and we have what's called the talk. And so many of you are probably familiar with that. It is where we have to, tell our children exactly what they have to do if a police officer stops them, where their hands need to be on the steering wheel, that they must communicate to the officer, my documentation is here in the glove box, can I reach for it? Don't reach in your pocket. We've got all of these things that we need to educate our children about, and these discussions oftentimes start very early in life. They start often, I mean, if you've got more than one child, someone's older, they're driving first. I mean, this is just something, a discussion that happens in the Black community. And I can tell you that while I worked on the driving equality ordinance and while I was researching and, basically building it, I did have the opportunity and it took the time to speak with my peers on council. And for those that don't look like me, my white peers, they have the privilege of not having had to have those conversations with their children before they got their driver's license. So so when I talk about, that's why I say it's bittersweet, because it's like this newfound freedom for the child, but it can also be a very scary time for parents when we know our kids are going to be behind the wheel. We do know that the people. There are two ways that most people come into contact with police officers for the first time, and that's either at school, because the school has what we call an SRO, which is a school resource officer, or as a result of a traffic stop. So if folks haven't had encounters with police before, that's usually the way they have encounters with the police for the first time, is as a result of school or a traffic stop. So I don't know if I'm just kind of like sharing with you, basically the reason that I know there was data. I know we had Dr. Kevin Karpiak that at EMU that was working on something at the time that, to be honest with you, it was the reason I started to work on this was because of what I heard from peers and from residents and folks that have not had such a fun time here in the city of Ann Arbor. So we successfully passed the driving equality ordinance unanimously 2 years ago. And one thing that occurred with I'll talk to you a little bit about the timing of the passage of the driving equality ordinance because of the 4th of July holiday. It actually, our council meeting fell on the 7-year anniversary of Philando Castile's murder, of his killing. And that was kind of by just coincidence, or was it really? I don't know. Was it by coincidence? I believe in fate. And, I watched, while working on the driving equality ordinance, I watched the recording of Philando Castile's killing, and he was shot and killed within seconds. And I believe it was a taillight that was out. He was shot and killed in front of his partner and his child that was in the back seat. So in July, I believe 7th or July 6th, just a few months ago, was the 9-year anniversary of his killing. And so that was, I don't know, just put goosebumps, all over me in my hair, the back of my neck stood up at the thought of, us passing this ordinance on that anniversary. So what I can share with you that occurred here in Ann Arbor once we passed the driving equality ordinance is that, and I'm not looking at any numbers right now, but we did see a little bit of a decline in traffic stops. What I will share, before I get off into that, and by the way, part of my presentation is my special guest here, Chief Anderson, who is also going to, have his say about the driving equality ordinance. One thing I tell people about the process of passing the driving equality ordinance is that was really only the first part of limiting not unnecessary contact between law enforcement and civilians, because that's really what this is limiting, unnecessary contact between law enforcement and civilians. So I'll say it again. The second part of the driving equality ordinance is the implementation. And that is the phase that we're in right now, even 2 years later. In order for us here at the city to implement the driving equality ordinance, we felt that we had to usher in the right individual that was going to carry this out. Like, my job was I legislate, we pass resolutions, we pass ordinances, and so my role was, that was my role, and that's within my purview as a city council member. But we had to make sure that we had somebody who was going to lead our police department that aligned with our values and was going to see this process out of limiting unnecessary contact between law enforcement and civilians. And so that's what we did. We ushered in an individual that prior to even applying, did the research, knew where our values were, where we stood, made sure that we were in alignment with their values, and we, post passing the driving equality ordinance, ushered in Chief Andre Anderson. And so he is the chief of police, and his role is to carry out what we at City Council directed the staff to do. And so he could speak with you better and more about what he did once he once he started here, which was in 2024, I believe, 2023 in February. Is that right? No, 2024. All the years are just like they're 2024. And so I knew, as the champion of the driving equality ordinance, that it was not going to just like stop overnight. Some of these just ticky-tacky, what some call pretext stops, equipment violation stops that are not related to public safety. Because the reason I knew it would not necessarily happen overnight is, I'll say it, I've said it before, I'll say it right now, that culture eats policy for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Does anybody know what I mean by that? Anybody want to say what that means? I mean, I know what I think it means. I see you nodding your head over there. Anybody want to?
I don't know if any of the commissioners want to.
I can expound on that.
Okay.
So culture eats policy for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So that means, the culture has to be shaped, right? There was a culture that existed here prior to Chief Anderson taking his seat as our police chief that, quite frankly, has existed for decades. And I will say, it is my opinion that it is the status quo that existed here. And our job at City Council and the job of the city administrator was to bring in the police chief to help shape the culture so that the ordinance that we approved at City Council, we would have the outcome that we wanted. And so this is probably a good time to pass this discussion on over to
Let me stop you before you
Okay.
do that.
Okay. Sure.
Thank you
Yes. Yeah.
very much.
You're welcome.
Councilwoman. I was introducing some people that we were happy to see, and another one of them is the fairly new president of the Ann Arbor branch of the NAACP, Mr. Andre Watson, who's in the back. Welcome. We're happy to see you here. And you may remember that Mr. Watson was mentioned in the articles in the Ann Arbor News, that he was stopped. And we're going to have time. If this discussion it'll take us as long as it takes us. We can finish our business at the end of the meeting, and you all won't have to sit through that. What the Ann Arbor News headline said is black drivers still disproportionately stopped by police despite the ordinance. So, Chief Anderson, we are so happy to have you here, and I invite you to come and speak with us about, I know you and I have spoken, and I know you have some interesting information for us.
I do. Thank you, Madam Chair, and I want to thank you all for allowing me to be here. Councilmember Harrison, thanks for having the courage to lead the agenda with respect to how our Ann Arbor Police Department is carrying out our mission. Before I start, there's a couple things I want to say real quickly because we had an opportunity to introduce some folks. So I got to introduce some folks too.
Okay.
So I have Acting Commander Dunlap is here. And also, yes, Acting Commander Nobelsdorf is here. And both, yes. And Sergeant King. I love Sergeant King. And Lieutenant Anthony Petterly. Now we're in SWAT gear today. So, thank you so much. I am really glad to be here. For the first time, I generally don't speak too much about some of the things that are important to me with respect to how I view things. So I will just say, educationally, I have a master's degree in education and leadership, and I hardly ever talk about that, but really, in reality, I am a teacher. And so I think my employees know that. Often I'm teaching and explaining things. And why that's important is because I just want to bring you an interesting fact when we talk about traffic stops. We know that traffic stops have had a historical and detrimental impact of people in color. And we know that. And I'm not minimizing that. But the first historical traffic stop that we know of happened to President Ulysses S. Grant. And he was a sitting president in 1872. And he was warned by a black police officer to stop speeding while he was the president. And he was speeding in a horse carriage. And he did not stop. So that police officer arrested him while he was riding that horse carriage for speeding. And that's where the first really historical traffic stops occurred. But traffic stops have taken on a meaning far greater than that stop. We believe, as our council member started this ordinance, is that she didn't want to eliminate the fact that traffic stops were there in order to address safety, primary concerns, which somewhat got confusing to some people because it was always her intent to address the safety, but not the harm associated with what transpired. I would like for us to be conversational, so I want to say a few things, but I know there's some individuals that would like to talk to us. But I want to give you some stats. When we started looking at the stops that we had with race-specific, we go back to January 2022. And at that time, for all races, we had stops for about 155 individuals. And then, without going through all of the stops, that year, that was the highest number of stops we made. In December, we ended up with 129 stops. And then in January of 2023, for all equipment stops for all races, we were up to 164 stops. And then at the end of the year, we were down to about 119. And then in January of 24, things started to decline. Now, I got here in 24. Shortly after that, we were around 63 stops. And then we ended up with 64 stops at the end of the year. And then they started to increase a little bit slightly in January 2025. And now to date, we are in September, as it stands, we have 0 traffic stops for equipment violation, 0. So I want to speak to that specifically in terms of just real quickly about culture change. One of the things that I learned historically is with police officers and people in general is to just have a real conversation about, do we have biases? And it's odd that I would meet some employees and people that felt like they did not have biases. That is an odd statement. I would like to see that proven. I've never met someone that doesn't have some type of bias. And the police officers spend a lot of their time with respect to looking at crime and then not really thinking about the detrimental impact that it has on people. And it requires leaders to get in front of those types of concerns, like Councilmember Harrison and the rest of the council, to bring that to our attention. That also allowed for us to emerge and have our ICPOC, who is here today, the voice of the community, to speak truth to power and to tell the police department and others when they believe that we are acting outside of the things they expect for the community. All of that is the true governance of policing. The community needs you, and that you're doing a great job. The police officers, in talking to them about biases, we started very early on in January of this year, and we were just talking about stops of people of color. And initially, there was at that time around 60-something stops. And in February, when we started these conversations, they went up to about 94 stops. So when I first started talking to individuals about it, it was a little bit challenging to get individuals to really understand where we were going. And in the following month, they went up to 104. So the conversation started, and we looked at the ordinance, and then things didn't get better, they increased. And so what I've learned in policing, I've been in law enforcement for 39 years, and the one thing that I do respect the police officers, and many of them indicated that they didn't truly understand until we brought the numbers to them. And I don't know how people change with respect to just making them aware of what the issues are. But I made it very clear to my staff that whether you change or not, I'm your employer. And as your employer, you can think or do whatever you want when you're not at work. But when you come to work, I'm going to create policies and hold you accountable. And that's what I did. And so we created policies, and we talked to our command leadership, and our command leadership got on board with the changes we were making. And many of them are here today, and they 100% supported the direction that we were going as we spoke specifically about the council's ordinance, ICPOC's ordinance, or ICPOC's response, as well as Councilmember Harrison. And after numerous conversations with our staff, we all agreed that we didn't want to be an agency that was seen as one that was having a disparate impact on people of color. That isn't an agency that we believe is a model police department agency. And there's no way that I would be able to accomplish that without the men and women of the police department in order to move things forward, and they did. And so you would see, as I finish talking here, is that finally by April, we were down to about 28 stops. And then we issued in a policy. We ushered in the policy right at March, when we were at the peak. We were at 104 stops, and then they issued in the policy. Once we put the policy down, the next month they dropped to 28. The following month, in May, it dropped to 4 stops of African Americans. And then in June, it went back up, spiked to 6. Now keep in mind, we were in the hundreds. And then July, it went to 1. And in August, it went to 0. And now September, it went to 0. And because of what you've done, I don't think that there's any police department in the country that are meeting these agendas. No one is. We're the first. And I'm somewhat superstitious, so I'm a little bit careful sometimes when I talk about traffic stops and equipment violations, because the studies will tell us, as people will say, if you decrease traffic stops, it'll have an impact on traffic fatalities. And we were having a lot of traffic fatalities until we implemented the equipment violations and stopped doing them. And at that time, they stopped. We had only 1 fatality since then, and that was because, unfortunately, a person ran into a deer. And so what the study showed is that when you're stopping people less for minor equipment violations, your community is safer. And that sounds kind of odd, but that's what the studies say. That's what the information that was brought to me suggests. We looked at it, and that's clearly what's happening. But I'll end by saying that This is really not about data. This is about making sure that we don't have a disparate impact on people when we stop them, mainly people of color, mostly men. Even I am triggered when I go other places and I'm driving my vehicle and I see a police officer behind me. It makes me nervous, and I don't like it, and I have reasons for that. And so I recognize the fact that there are true concerns. And bringing that to the attention of our police officers and them moving forward has been a great thing, and we hope to continue to move forward, but we're not perfect. So I will say this. We're not perfect. The only time we think about perfection, knowing that it's imperfect, is not authentic. It's not authentic to try to be perfect. And as I've said to our people, we can do this. We can make this change and get it down to zero. And I talked to them today, and I asked them, do you know what Henry Ford said when he talked about what you can? His statements are, whether you think you can or you think you can't, it's true. So if you think you can't, it's true. If you think you can, it's true. And that's been the motto that I've put into our employees all the time, is always, you can do it. The same motto I have for my grandkids. So that being said, open it up for discussion or any conversation.
So before you do that, Chief Anderson, let me just, you have handed us some information to the commission, and hopefully we can have it available for citizens if they want to see this. But it looks to me like there's a real possibility that the information in the Ann Arbor News article was probably taken off of the police dashboard online.
Right.
And did not include statistics after your policy was put in place. Is that your understanding?
Some of the information was put in place after the policy initially, but they started to add the information. I mean, what it showed is that there was a negative impact on people of color that was stopped. That's what the article showed. That is an accurate article reflection. So what they provided was true.
Okay.
But what we were able to get them to see is what took place after the department, and we implemented the policies, which I provided you a copy of the policy. And then they started to see that we were making significant changes. And they did a number of interviews, I think about 5 different interviews with Councilmember Harrison, and she kind of explained that. That was her role as a council member, to communicate, and she just provided the facts, and the facts started to lay out that we did make a lot of changes.
And so based on this graph that you've shown us, in 2025, these equipment stops went from 104 back in February or March down to 1 in
It is small.
July and 0 in August.
That is correct, because if the policy was implemented on May 28th. So if you look at March, we were all the way up to 104 stops. So it's the end of the month. So we created a policy at the end of the month.
Yeah.
And then right after we created the policy, things just dropped down completely.
Good. Thank you so very much for coming in, helping us understand what's going on. So for everyone who's here, again, we can get more copies, so after we're done, someone can have a copy of what we're looking at. There are copies of the driving equality ordinance on the table in the front. And if there's anyone who'd like to pick one up if you leave before the end of the meeting, you feel free to do so. I think there's also copies of our, we have copies here, copies of our annual report from ICPA. So I'm going to open it up. We usually have public comment. You can ask questions. If it's a comment, we are limited to 3 minutes. If you have a question, feel free to direct it to, what's up? What? Yeah, if he wishes to speak, I don't want to put anybody on the spot. You want to?
I will.
Mr. Watson? Thank you, sir. Come right on up.
Okay. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
So the irony is, I spoke on behalf of the ordinance when it was passing, and then to have been pulled over randomly, it was just very rich. I couldn't believe it. But I do believe that as a community, we have an opportunity to create a model of what the solution looks like. And I appreciate the organization inviting me out tonight, because we do have to examine it and make sure that it's properly being assessed. And the policies that we're working on implementing are actually effective. And I do know also from a national level, I suspect that there could very well be more heavy-handedness, which is concerning as a person of color in this country. So I applaud our community for attempting to do what we're doing here, doing the work. Now, at the end of our efforts, it would be great to see those numbers shift the way that they shifted. I'm assuming those numbers are accurate, right? My experience was, it was pretty bizarre, but I actually felt more for those who may not have the voice that I have here in this community. I was about 12 steps from my house, so it was super bizarre. And I was accused of something like being close to the line or hugging the line, which I'd never heard of. But that all happened. But if we can model what solution looks like, from being a visionary to listening to an underrepresented community, the African Americans in this community, I think, is a very low population, to having a police chief who's actually championing even unpopularly within police force. So I just applaud us for doing the work of finding solution. And I just also encourage us to continue to look at the numbers, to make sure the numbers align up. So when policy is brought and communities are doing their part, that we actually get what we're after. So thank you.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
By the way, when, come on up, sir. We have a national organization for police oversight, and last year, Councilperson Harrison was applauded at the national meeting because of her sponsorship and preparation of this driving equality ordinance. So this is something new around the country, and we are very happy to have it here. Yes, sir. Would you start by giving your name, please, and then
Hello,
do you have
my
a
name
question?
is Cortland Bursey. You might remember me from last year. I'm here to give you part 2 of Karenitis. Ready? Yeah, you remember Roanoke City. I was dragged into court. I'll get to the point as it connects you, Ann Arbor. But anyway, Roanoke City, I was brought into court and drawn in quarter for assaulting a woman when that didn't happen because of the accusation of mental illness. The sentence was, he seemed as if mental illness was involved in his decision-making. I think the magistrate should have made that she instead of he. Oh dear, don't you hate pronouns? But anyway, I asked myself, why would this district do that to me after 2007 when Virginia passed mental health reforms to a certain effect? Why would it abuse those reforms to get easy convictions on me in court and fill quotas for a certain Blue Ridge behavioral health care? Because they were constantly trying to get me to sign forms for mental health treatment when I didn't assault anyone. And why would you want me to affirm mental illness when, oh, is that why you want me to affirm mental illness? Because you don't have any proof of that? Yeah, because I don't know why you would abuse these laws in the same district as Virginia Tech. Yeah, Virginia Tech, you get the connection now? Because that's what I had to ask myself. Why are you abusing mental health reforms passed after the Virginia Tech shooting to prevent more spree shooters? Why are you using them in this matter? Because it doesn't matter. They don't care. Nope. Still don't care now. Virginia has been abusing its mental health reforms to get easy convictions in court and to fill quotas for private health care providers like Blue Ridge Behavioral Health Care, which is found in Roanoke County, and there are others in Virginia. Yeah, and also to cover up gross medical errors in its system. Yeah, So what does this have to do with you, Michigan? Oh, well, thanks to my encounters with your police, University of Michigan Hospital, and your local CMH, I have no choice but to conclude you do exactly the same. Where would I get this wacky idea? Oh, I don't know. Officer Curtis, why do I need to talk to a social worker? Because the people are concerned. Do you not like my comments about Catholics? Well, they are very inquisitional Catholics. Is that why Tudor Dixon was named after Bloody Mary Tudor? Oh, what? You don't like me insulting the Pope? Well, former president of U of M, Anglican Christian Santa Ona, was a member of the Anglican Church, founded by King Henry VIII. So, what? You didn't like the Pope either. No, that's just a sample of the encounters I've had here. So tell me, how am I a mental patient for talking to picnic tables? Is it because they're made out of wood,
30
or was I
seconds.
talking to the trees? The point is, your police advisory committee is fake. I know it is fake because you let the local police abuse the CMH with the local hospital to cover up any criticisms of their person, because that's exactly what they did to me, and that's why y'all sent me to Macomb County. Thanks for holding me in contempt, Democrats. Now I know I'm going to get elected in Michigan. Bye.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak, ask questions of the chief or Councilperson Harrison? I know there was a lot of interest, and we appreciate you all coming out. We certainly hope that some of your questions have been addressed this evening. Yes, come right on up, please. Will you tell us your name if you'd like, and
Yes. You need me to sign here?
you don't have to.
Yes. Thank you for having me speak tonight. My name is Jessica Kelly. My son, Brandon Isaac Kelly, was picked up by the Ann Arbor Police July 1st and placed in Washtenaw County Jail. My son, prior to being picked up, was homeless and battling mental illness. I have been advocating for my son for several months until there was an incident inside Washtenaw County Jail to where he was able to start receiving treatment. I'm very concerned because back in 2023 he was picked up and he was not placed in jail. And it's just concerning as me as a mother, as a black mother with my only black son being picked up by the police. And because of his battle with mental illness, he did not call me. I actually called because I didn't hear from him. I called the jail and he was there since July. I have not spoken with my son. And I think that's all due to his mental illness. I just see him through Zoom in court. I have no interaction with my son. I'm guessing that his mental illness is being taken care of, but it's very heartbreaking for me as a mother not to have that communication, which I had while he was homeless. But I just wanted to bring that to your awareness because I spoke with Carol Galler of NAMI. She said that the police had underwent an 8-week course during that time that overlapped the time that he was picked up, dealing with those who are homeless, battling mental illness. And sometimes we can't recognize it. I could look at you and I can't say that you have it, but because, the fact that that was a known condition of his and him being homeless, I just wanted to bring that to the attention of you guys.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
And you bring up an issue that we also talk about. We have a training committee on the commission, and I know that council has been looking at issues of how to handle situations that are police situations dealing with mental illness. And it's a problem. It's a real issue, and I think there's some training. Chief, you all have any specific training or how to handle those kind of issues?
Yes, the department has a number of required trainings through MCOLs, as well as, which is our licensing, as well as internal training. We bring in outside speakers regularly for training, our annual refresher training, as well as throughout the year to discuss different things. We have implemented new procedures and policies and stuff like that to address those things as they've come up. And we have additional training and officers and resources being put towards that particular purpose. Officer Casey Whitford is working on stuff like that, of that nature, with our crisis response and de-escalation of that, and so on and so forth. So it's all part of our ongoing training, whether it's just regular calls for service to extreme situations where individuals are in serious crisis, and what we can do and what resources we can provide to them to help resolve that situation as peacefully as possible.
Thank you.
Appreciate that, Brandon. And as we actually look for training, and Brandon, Acting Commander Nobelsdorf is over training, we actually look for training for mental health, and we're required to have that training, as he indicated. So every police officer has mental health training, but we also created additional training to address individuals in emotional distress. And that is new training that we received. And so when he talked about crisis intervention training, we have 8 police officers that have gone through 40 hours of training on just how to deal with people we encounter that are in crisis. And that's not enough. We're going to be doing more training. In addition to that, as you've probably seen across the country, that the police have encountered people or an individual that has been in some type of mental psychosis, and their acuity would cause the police officer to overreact. And so what we have is actual training where we teach our police officers with real life scenarios, and scenarios like almost like a video, where they use special goggles and glasses in order to see individuals that you may be encountering that may be having some type of suicidal ideations or mental episode. And then we evaluate how the police officer is responding to that person and actually de-escalating. The other thing is we brought to the police department what's called a patrol model. And it is a model that causes the police officers to actually, it's an acronym, but it requires the police officers, when they see someone that's having a concern, the first thing they need to do is, instead of reacting, they need to have a plan. So if they hear that someone is something is going on, they're going to say, okay, what kind of issue is this person having? So we need to plan. And that's really important, because the first part of that plan may be no police. It may be we don't need to respond, or we may need to have someone else respond, and then we move through our training that way. And the last component I would say is every year we have annual refresher training, and I believe this year we had NAMI come into the training. So we had our mental health professionals come in and train every single police officer on how to deal with mental health, and it's still not enough.
Thank you, Chief. You know, just so that you all know, our several of our commissioners took part in one of those training exercises where we had on the goggles, and it's a situation where you have to respond. Quite interesting. We were shooting people. But we also had an idea that perhaps the community would be interested in some kind of community training, or to see what kind of training our police officers go through. And I would encourage anyone in the community, if that's something that you would want to see, to contact our office and let us know what you want to see. This is a community police oversight, and we want to represent the community in what this commission does. Are there any other comments or questions or statements at this time? Go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to make sure we're talking about those goggles. I know you heard our commissioner talk about the shooting. The goggles are set up for the police officers to have shoot, non-shoot situations, so they show us when we shouldn't shoot. But the reality is like we're really trained on when we should not shoot. So generally, if someone does something wrong, we're going to retrain them. Our part of that was to let our commission to kind of see how split-second decisions happen so they can see what happens. And when you're untrained, it could cause you to respond, maybe in a shooting. And I think that's what our commissioner was saying. But primarily, respectfully, if you're not trained, you're going to respond to it faster than we would. But it's really, you're going to see, like, we only have less than 2 seconds. 1001, 1002, that's it. Less than 2 seconds generally to respond to a situation, and we have to make a decision that fast. And so if you're untrained, you may not be able to respond as fast as we are. And that's kind of, I wanted to make sure.
That's exactly what we were learning in that training. Thank you, Chief Anderson. If there are no other questions or comments, we're going to proceed with the balance of the commission meeting. If anyone wishes to not stay for that, that's fine. You are welcome to go at this time. And again, we have materials if you want to pick those up on the front table. Thank you so much for coming. We appreciate your interest.
Those cards, you can take, several, so you can hand them out. Yeah, get them in folks' hands. You're welcome.
Okay, so next on our agenda is a report from the chair. I do not have a long report at all. As you know, we had a vacancy on the commission with the departure of Commissioner Billups. Vice Chair Offman and I interviewed a gentleman who had applied for that vacancy, and we passed it on to our council liaisons, and so we expect that he will be approved, and we're looking forward to that. At the same time, I got an email from the Commissioner Jess Francis, who indicates that because of a change in her job responsibilities, she has to resign from the commission. So we have, again, another vacancy. So we're open if anyone wants to apply for that vacancy on the commission. We are planning, I don't know if everybody probably knows, Chief Anderson was in Ferguson right after Michael Brown was killed. And he has a presentation about that experience in Ferguson. And we are going to be setting that up as another joint project between the department and ICPOC. Right now, tentatively, it's scheduled for November 12th. I know Commissioner Green has offered a venue for that, and we'll see if we can work out the audio-visual details. But tentatively, that's scheduled for November 12th, and we'd like, I think it's going to be very interesting for us to take a look at that. 4 of us are going to NACO, the annual National Oversight meeting, and that'll be towards the end of October. And that is my report. Do we have any old business?
At this time, we do not have any old business. Commissioners, is there any old business to discuss at this time? Seeing none, we have no old business.
Thank you. Do we have any new business?
We have no new business on the agenda at this time. Commissioners, is there any new business on the agenda that you all would like to discuss at this time? Seeing none, we have no new business.
Then we're going to move on to report from the committees. Policy Committee, I know that we're looking forward to a report. The Policy Committee is taking a look at the police policies and is going to make a report to us. There are a lot of policies. Do y'all know how many policies there are? A lot.
What did you say?
182.
Okay.
But then there are the subheads.
And subparts. So our committee, Policy Committee is looking at policies, and they will be presenting a report to us in the next, well, we asked them to do it in the fall, and it's just fall, starting, probably tomorrow. Huh? So we expect that report will be coming shortly. Training Committee.
No report at this time.
Okay. Do you think, well, okay. What? No training. You all don't want to train us anymore? Okay. Just, you're not done with us? Okay.
Yeah, we're always open for training.
Okay, okay. Do we still think we can get a community thing that people can sign up for?
I would have to double check on that, but I'm sure it's
Yeah.
something we can work out. Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you. Outreach Committee.
There's no report. She's not here.
No report. Planning Committee.
Commissioner Clifford, is she?
No report. All right.
Y'all are killing me today.
Part of my report was to welcome everybody back from the summer. Of course, we were off for July and August, and so now we're back to work for the fall. Information Managers Committee.
Just to report on the complaints that we received.
All the complaints are included in the report that you all have received in your packets.
Yeah. We have so far 27 complaints that were received by ICPOC, and that does not include the ones that were filed directly with AAPD. So we are separate. Our complaints after APD had finished their review of investigations. We looked at those ones, reviewed them, and generated reports. And if there were recommendations, those would be included in those reports. This is part of what we're doing. The other thing is, in the past few weeks or months, 2 months, APD is entertaining modernizing their record management system, and there were 4 vendors that presented their what do you call it, the systems to APD. I managed to attend by Zoom a couple of those. The other 2 I was not able, but Sergeant Peterly had sent me the links to all the 4, and I looked at all the 4 and all the written statements, and ranked them, sent an email back to APD ranking those systems. Basically, the recommendations would be ease of use, addressing all the issues that we would like from the system in terms of data analysis, the support for the system from the vendors, and the other thing is to include in the systems that they're going to be using for ethnicity or race for the Arab or North African based on the U.S. Census, use the word MENA, meaning Middle Eastern North African, as a race, because sometimes when you find somebody, if I look at myself and what I'm going to tell myself, I look a little bit white over here, and sometimes I say white, but really it's not the ethnicity that I'm looking at. So if we have a distinct one as Middle Eastern North African, that would also give us another source of analyzing data in more faithful way than just lumping all the different groups just based on how the skin color looks like. And so this is some of the recommendations I have. I know a decision probably was not made yet to which system the APD is going to adopt, but definitely whatever system, as I looked at, would be much, much better, more flexible, dynamic than the one that is currently being used by APD.
Thank you, thank you. Just to follow up, ICPOC, part of what we do is review complaints from citizens with regard to their interaction with the police department. Complaints can come in directly to us. We have an office. They can call, they can email, or complaints can come through the police department. And ICPOC does not do any review until after the department has already reviewed the complaint. It's interesting, we talk about trying to figure out how things affect different segments of society. If you look at your driver's license, it doesn't have race on it. And it surprised me because I thought it did, but it doesn't. So sometimes in collecting these statistics that we try to use, it's up to the officer to kind of figure out, what is the race of this person that I'm stopping. So hopefully with the new information systems, it'll be a little easier for us to collect the data that we're using.
Madam Chair, just one more
Sure.
comment on the report that was published on Arbor News or MLive, is the fact that we were not aware of the data and the stops because we did not receive any complaints. So we were basically in the dark in terms of what was going on. And looking at the numbers and data, many of the encounters that African Americans had, I would say, was more or less on the positive side, yet we did not get any kind of complaint to follow up and make sure that whatever reason that an individual was stopped would be addressed. But we did not receive that, so we really had no idea. And no one had even contacted us from MLive or Arbor News about the numbers. So we were just like anyone else. We were surprised.
And that the way that we know what's going on is for the community to tell us. Let us know if you, and not only if you have complaints, but if you have compliments. If you had a really good interaction with a police officer, we'd like to know that as well. That's something that we take very seriously. Next on our agenda, thank you very much, Vice Chair Hoffman. We have a council update.
This is kind of it's a council member update.
Okay.
So the update that I have to share with you all today, for your planning purposes, so you can add this date to your calendar, in partnership, myself and my individual capacity as an Ann Arbor City Council member, along with partnering with the Ann Arbor District Library, we'll be putting on an event about the highly publicized serial rape investigation by the Ann Arbor Police Department that occurred roughly 30 years ago. The Ann Arbor Police Department investigated hundreds of black male residents in Ann Arbor. as a result for this serial rape investigation, and collected over 163 blood samples for DNA analysis, which basically was a form of mass screening known as a DNA dragnet. So, like I said, in partnership with the Ann Arbor District Library, we're putting on an event on November 9th at the Michigan Theater, and that will be from 2 to 4. So filmmakers, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m., and that's a Sunday. Filmmaker Aaliyah Mitchell will tell the story of Ann Arbor's DNA dragnet in a short documentary, and there will be a panel discussion that follows that documentary. And so it's been a project that I'm really proud to have the opportunity to work on, and really very thankful to the Ann Arbor District Library for their support in making this event a reality. And so I've been working on it for about a year and a half by the time November gets here. So again, I hope to see many of you there on Sunday, November 9th at the Michigan Theater. The event starts at 2 o'clock. Oh, and you can read more about the event by going to aadl.org/DNA Dragnet. Thank you. That's the only update I have.
Yeah, and that was quite a infamous event.
Yeah, for those that lived here,
Yeah.
during that time. Yeah, it was basically, the black community was traumatized, in short. So it's a dark part of our history that we'd like to forget about it, but on the same thought, we don't want to forget about it because it's important to acknowledge it. It's important, the purpose of the event is for truth-telling, acknowledgement, and then repair. And also discussing how we make sure something like this never occurs again here in our city, or hopefully anywhere, quite frankly.
Yeah.
But again, that is Sunday, November 9th at 2 o'clock p.m. at the Michigan Theater. Thank you.
Thank you. We've come to the end of our agenda. Is there anything that any of the commissioners wish to ask or add or comment on before we adjourn? Commissioner Green.
Yes, Madam Chair, I'd just like to say that I was very impressed with the decline in the numbers that were presented by the department, and I think that we're moving in the right direction.
I think so too. I think, thank you for that. I mean, the numbers tell us a lot, and we're grateful for that policy and the policy direction of the department. Seems to be moving us in the right way. Thank you. Anything else? If not, can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
Motion to adjourn.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.